The connection between Native Americans and cowboys. Native Americans and cowboys, iconic symbols of the American West, have had a complex relationship throughout history. In popular culture, this relationship is often depicted as one of conflict and hostility. However, the real history reveals a much deeper, more intricate connection between these two groups. Cowboys and Native Americans lived on the same lands, faced similar challenges, and, in some cases, cooperated with one another. Historical background. Cowboys were cattle herders who emerged as part of the Great Ranching Era in the American West. In the second half of the 19th century, large-scale cattle ranching spread across vast territories, and cowboys managed these herds. During the same period, Native American tribes were struggling against European settlers and the U.S. government for their land, way of life, and cultural survival. The American government's expansion policies led to the dispossession of Native American lands, forced relocations, and cultural suppression. Conflicts. The most well-known relationship between cowboys and Native Americans is based on conflict. As Native American tribes lost their land due to U.S. westward expansion, cowboys began to manage cattle herds in these newly occupied areas. The need for vast grazing lands by cowboys was perceived by Native Americans as encroachment on their territories, leading to violent clashes. The Indian Wars are some of the most prominent examples of these conflicts. As the U.S. government forced Native American tribes onto reservations, cowboys and other settlers expanded into their territories. This often resulted in violent confrontations, sometimes with significant losses. Native tribes resisted to preserve their traditional way of life, while cowboys and settlers sought to utilize the West's resources. Cooperation and coexistence. However, the relationship between Native Americans and cowboys wasn't solely defined by hostility. There were also instances of economic and cultural cooperation between cowboys and native tribes. Some Native American tribes began to engage in cattle ranching, learning herding techniques from cowboys. Cowboys, in turn, gained valuable knowledge from Native Americans about hunting, survival, and the local environment. Some Native Americans worked alongside cowboys, helping to drive herds and participating in the cattle industry. Similarly, some cowboys respected native cultures and traditions and even integrated with their way of life. This exchange of knowledge sometimes led to peaceful coexistence and mutual respect between the two groups. Cultural legacy. Native Americans and cowboys are foundational to the culture of the American West. While they are often depicted as adversaries in popular culture, their relationship was not solely based on conflict but also on cooperation and mutual influence. Native Americans' harmonious relationship with nature and cowboys' rugged independence have both contributed to the legends and cultural heritage of the American West. The cowboy's brave, independent lifestyle symbolizes the Wild West, while Native Americans' respect for nature and community-based living are essential elements of the American West's mythos. Understanding the relationships between these two groups sheds light on the complexities and struggles of America's westward expansion. Conclusion. The connection between Native Americans and cowboys was not limited to conflicts. Though they clashed at times, they also learned to coexist and influenced each other. Just as cowboys contributed to Western culture, Native Americans' balance with nature and spirit of resistance are vital components of America's cultural heritage. First clash. The Battle of Golden Hill, 1770. The Battle of Golden Hill, which took place on January 19, 1770, is a lesser-known yet significant event in the prelude to the American Revolution. Often overshadowed by the more famous Boston Massacre, the clash between British soldiers and colonial protesters in New York City revealed the growing tension between the American colonies and the British Crown. This event marked one of the first violent confrontations in New York City between the two sides, predating the more famous conflicts that followed. Background. The growing tensions. The 1760s and early 1770s were marked by increasing discontent in the American colonies due to British taxation and policies following the French and Indian War. The Stamp Act of 1765 and the Townshend Acts of 1767, which imposed taxes on goods such as paper, glass, and tea, were particularly unpopular. In response, colonial groups such as the Sons of Liberty formed to protest these measures, often using both peaceful and violent means to make their voices heard. In New York, the Sons of Liberty became increasingly active, opposing British authority and urging resistance to taxation without representation. One of their tactics involved tearing down British liberty poles, symbols erected by loyalists to celebrate the Crown's authority. The removal of these poles often led to skirmishes between colonists and British troops stationed in the city. The incident at Golden Hill. Tensions reached a boiling point on January 19, 1770, when British soldiers attempted to cut down yet another liberty pole in New York City. This act enraged the local Sons of Liberty and other colonists, who gathered at Golden Hill, an area near modern-day John Street in Lower Manhattan. Confrontations escalated as colonists hurled insults at the soldiers and accused them of violating their rights. The situation quickly turned violent when British soldiers, armed with bayonets, attempted to disperse the crowd. In response, the colonists fought back, some wielding clubs and other makeshift weapons. The ensuing melee resulted in several injuries on both sides, though, remarkably, no one was killed. Aftermath and significance. Although the Battle of Golden Hill did not result in any fatalities, it was an important precursor to the larger clashes that would ignite the American Revolution. The incident demonstrated the growing willingness of colonists to confront British authority directly. It also underscored the volatility of relations between the colonies and the Crown, particularly in urban centers like New York. The event is often overshadowed by the Boston Massacre, which occurred just weeks later in March 1770. However, the Battle of Golden Hill remains significant as one of the first violent confrontations between British soldiers and American colonists. It highlighted the widespread dissatisfaction in the colonies and set the stage for the broader revolutionary struggle that would unfold in the years to come. In conclusion, the Battle of Golden Hill is a key moment in the pre-revolutionary history of New York City. It serves as a reminder of the simmering tensions that existed long before the Declaration of Independence and the major battles of the Revolutionary War.